We're going to review interval notation. And so we can talk about a portion of the number line with an inequality. So if I have x is greater than or equal to 2, okay, I could represent that in the following way. So if I have 2 on my number line here, so let's say this is 2, and I have I want to talk about x is greater than or equal to 2. Well, I can be 2, and I can be anything that is greater than or equal to 2. So that's what that graph is going to look like. And I can also, so I can describe this as an inequality, but I can also talk about this as an interval. Okay, and an interval is just a section of the number line. You can think of it like that. It's a range of real numbers. So I have interval notation. I have this bracket 2, comma, infinity. Okay, and so if we look at this, okay, I've got a 2 here. Okay, so and that bracket indicates that I include 2. Okay, I include 2. And I go all the way up to, and if I keep going in this direction, that's off towards positive infinity. And if I were to go in this direction, that would be towards negative infinity. Okay, so this is how I write this in interval notation. Let's take a look at another example. So x is less than 2. So again, I've got 2 on my number line, and I want to talk about x values that are less than 2. Okay, so I can get really close to 2. I can use 1.9, 1.99, 1.9999. Okay, and I keep getting closer and closer, but 2 is not included in this inequality. So how I illustrate that is I draw an open circle around the 2. And since I want values less than 2, okay, x is less than 2, I can choose any number off in this direction. Okay. And so if I want to describe that as an interval, I'm going to say I'm going to talk about the interval from negative infinity. So remember, this is negative infinity. So negative infinity all the way up to, okay, but not including 2. And we use a parenthesis to say that we don't include it. Okay. So I'm talking about all this, any number along here up to but not including 2. Okay. And so we use parentheses when we don't include a number. Okay, so here we included 2. We used a bracket. Here we did not include 2, and we used a parenthesis. Okay, infinities always get parentheses because infinity is not a number. It's just this idea that they keep continuing. Okay, so whenever you have an infinity symbol or negative infinity symbol, you're going to use a parenthesis. Let's look at one more example, or two more examples. Let's look at if we have 1 and 5 on the number line, and we want to talk about x values that are greater than 1 but less than or equal to 5. Okay, so x is greater than 1. If I'm talking about x is greater than 1, well, that's off in this direction, right? Let's do this in 2 ways. So x greater than 1 would be off in that direction. And then x less than or equal to 5 would be off in this direction. But we are only interested in where they overlap. Okay, because it has to be both greater than 1 and less than or equal to 5. Well, so that only happens in this area here. And so what the graph really ends up looking like is we've got a circle at 1, and we go up 2, and we have a dot at 5. So this represents all the x values between 1 and 5, including 5 and not 1. So as an interval, I'm saying, okay, my interval is starting at 1, but not including 1. That's what the parenthesis means. Up to and including 5. Our final example is what if we have two conditions that could happen? So x less than negative 3. So we've got negative 3. Or x can be greater than 4. Okay. So if I'm looking at x less than negative 3, so it's strictly less than, so I don't include it. X less than negative 3 looks like that. X greater than or equal to negative 4 looks like that. And notice we have two disjoint intervals. Okay. Up here we had two intervals and they overlapped. Here we have two disjoint intervals. So we represent that in interval notation. We can specify both intervals. So this first one is negative infinity up to but not including negative 3. So negative infinity up to and including negative 3. And we use this u here. Okay. This is the symbol for union. Or what we would say or. Union. So the interval negative infinity to negative 3, okay, union the interval 4, and we're including 4 up to positive infinity. So what is the graph of negative 4, 6? And I encourage you to pause and figure this out for yourself. So if we were to talk about this on a graph, we've got negative 4, and we've got 6. We're going to include negative 4, but we're not going to include 6, and we want everything in between. How do we write that as an inequality? Okay. Well, here I'm saying I need x's that are greater than or equal to negative 4, and I need x's that are less than 6. And so I can put these together. I can put these things together, and this gives me negative 1 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 6, or less than 6. So this is my interval notation. And then what is the graph of x is less than or equal to negative 1 or x is greater than negative 2? And again, I advise you to pause and see if you can figure this out for yourself. We've got our graph, we've got negative 1, I've got 2. Well, x less than negative 1, less than or equal to, means I include 1 and everything less than that. Okay, so off in that direction. X greater than 2 says that I'm not going to include 2, but I'm going to include everything bigger than that. Okay, so that's what the graph looks like. How can I represent this in interval notation? Well, my first interval goes from negative infinity all the way up to -1. Infinities always get parentheses. I'm including -1, so I get a bracket. Or, so I'm going to use my union symbol. Over here, I'm going from 2 to positive infinity. 2 is not included, so it gets a parenthesis, and infinities always get a parenthesis. So that would be the interval notation for that interval. And that's a review of interval notation.